Welcome to the Diamond High Performance Podcast. It is early in the morning here, but it is late where Leigh Godfrey is. Leigh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Dino. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to be here and have a chat with you because you are doing something amazing. Why are you in Florida at the moment?
So super fortunate. I was obviously a part of Gen32, which is a coaching program run by the Australian Institute of Sport. And they gave us the opportunity to submit a proposal to come into an immersive high performance program. And I was fortunate enough to be invited to come over to the Florida Gators softball program and do some work with them. So I've been in their program for the last week and a half, and I've got another week and a half to go. So yeah, very fortunate, and it's just a cool place to be.
Yes, absolutely. Florida is as you know my second home from
Yeah.
my time playing baseball, and I have not been back since I don't even know
hmm
since before COVID. Let's put it that way. So it's been over 5 years. What's it like over there at the moment?
Awesome. So I'm actually in a place called Gainesville, which is not one of, I guess, the major places in Florida, but it's a university town. So it's actually everything sort of surrounds the university. It's a massive one in that. So it's obviously a really high performing sports university, but also really does really well in the academic side. So a lot of kids come to school from all over the country and all over the world to come and compete in sports over here.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, they're probably best known for their football team, like the Florida Gators. And you got to go to the homecoming game?
Yeah, I did. Super lucky. Coach Walton, who actually is obviously the head coach of the softball program, invited me to go to the football game with him. So they do obviously what's called tailgating over here, and it was quite a big one because it was the anniversary of the 2015 National Championship softball program. So they had all of the guys flying for that, and they were out at the football by 11 a.m. for a 4:15 game. So it was a good fun day, and I was super lucky to get on the field and actually watch from the field for a fair bit. So, yeah, really lucky and loved every second of it.
That's awesome. There's probably nothing quite like playing, or shouldn't even say playing, spectating those big American football
Yeah.
games. Like they just know how to do it. They do it differently than everywhere else.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I was in the stadium and I didn't realize the capacity of the stadium was actually 90,000 plus. So they had, I think the total attendance was like 90,000 or 91,000 on the day. And that's for people that had tickets. So I can only imagine how many people around the campus were actually involved in the tailgating and the pre-ceremony. So it's just a different world. It's just super fun. Driving into the stadium, I was helping some of the coaches set up for the tailgate that they had pre-game, and the cart that we were actually driving broke down in front of like the frat house fraternity. So they were all gearing up for the game, and we actually drove past this lake in the middle of the campus that had alligators in it. It's just an insane world. Like they just do it so well over here, and they just get behind their sports. There wasn't one person that I saw that wasn't wearing a piece of Florida Gators apparel. It's just a different world, and it was so much fun. It was one of the best days that I've had in the US. So super lucky.
It does sound amazing. I'm not even a little bit jealous.
Yeah,
So that's all the cool stuff, and
yeah,
getting to do lots of sort of non-softball or non I guess we'll call it work, but it's not work.
yeah,
Work-related stuff.
yeah.
Um, but what's the intent of your trip? What are you hoping to accomplish while you're over there, and what's some of the other things you've got planned?
Yeah, so I guess it's just getting immersed in a full-time high performance softball program. We obviously don't have that back in Australia, and everyone's on campus, all the athletes are here, all the strength and conditioning, all the support staff and the coaches, which is obviously they've got numerous amounts of coaches and they've got numerous amounts of graduate assistant coaches as well, or managers. So it's just about like I mean, Coach Walton's been phenomenal. He's like given me access to everything. So I'm in their team meetings. I'm in the dugout during games. I'm on the field for practice. And it's just trying to teach me, I guess, how they teach softball, what they try and do on and off the field, and just give me an insight into how their coaches and support staff function. Because to give you an example of how big the program is, there's 4 full-time coaches. There's an administration manager. There is, I don't want to miss anyone, but I think there's roughly about 7 or 8 managers, which are graduate assistant, so former players that are now helping coach. There's dietitians that are in the dugout every game. There's S&C coaches that are in the dugout every game. There's a physio or 2 physios in the dugout every game. Like, it's just the actual program itself is huge, and the management of that is sort of some of the parts that I'm learning along the way. But it's a big organization, and it's a big administration team, and there's lots of moving pieces, Dino. So yeah, getting heaps out of it, both from a coaching perspective, but also from a management perspective of personnel and people and the team.
Yeah, it sounds like it's pretty phenomenal. From your sort of insight, obviously you've played for Australia at World Championships and World Cups
Yeah.
and Olympic Games and all of that sort of stuff. What's the difference for you between that and, a D1 college softball program as far as the resourcing? I guess just trying to, quite often in Australia, particularly in sports like softball, sometimes that athletes might need to make a choice between whether they go to college
Hmm.
or whether they pursue other opportunities within Australia or to be part of national teams, etc. What's your sort of viewpoint on all of that in regards to what the college system offers?
I mean, it's pretty unparalleled. Like I've seen the players every single day, and I've seen the players for 8 hours a day, and I've seen the coaches for 8 hours a day, and they come do individual work. They've got S&C coaches that are not only helping prepare them get stronger and faster and fitter, but actually be able to complete the loads that are required. Like, there's just, I don't know, they're getting an education, they're getting tutors. This afternoon they were going to a team building camp, with some military guys. Like, there's just, you get to be a full-time athlete for 4 years with the best support surrounding you. So from my opinion, I don't know if there's, for a college aged athlete, I don't think there's a better environment that you could possibly be in. And particularly, I mean, I'm super fortunate. The Florida Gators are a top 10 program pretty much every year. So I'm seeing the best of the best as well. But it's pretty unrivaled, and I don't think I haven't been in an environment that would rival what they have here.
And how would you say this is different to your college experience?
It's grown. So college softball is massive now. So it's on ESPN. The stadiums, like, we had a fall game, which is essentially like a scrimmage match or a practice match, and the stadium was full. So, like, it's very popular over here. It's grown significantly since I was at college. The technology that's involved, the strength and conditioning that's involved is huge, and there's just so many pieces that make up the athlete these days that's involved in college sport. So, yeah, can't really compare. It's sort of apples and oranges, but what they've got now, and the way athletes are treated and the environment that they're putting in is pretty phenomenal. So I definitely think they would walk out of a program like the Florida Gators as better athletes, but also as better people.
If I'm a young softballer that wants to go along that pathway, what is the realistic opportunity for someone to be able to be a D1 athlete?
Yeah.
And then also what type of workload do they need to prepare themselves for?
Uh, well, I'll give you an example. We played a fall game, so it was a 10 innings game. The girls practiced all day, so the fielding, hitting, did a whole practice session, which was like, I can't even tell you how many hours. Played a 2 innings, like 2 5 innings games, so back to back against the same team. I think we finished, I want to say, just after 10 or around that time, Dino, 10 at night, and we were back at the field for a 7 a.m. base running session, and I left the field at 4:15 with the last group of hitters. So the load is obviously quite significant. They put a really big emphasis on nutrition, strength and conditioning, and then obviously the skill based softball stuff. So it if I was a kid looking to come to college, I would start, really building my body and making sure I'm getting in the best shape that can handle the load and the required strength and physicality that the program requires. Because yeah, they go to work in D1 schools and there's nowhere to hide. So yeah, I'd be getting my body in the best shape possible and really looking after myself and putting myself in the best position to be able to come into whether it's D1, D2, D3, or a junior college, give myself the best opportunity to play well and to really impress the coaches that are around.
So how high is the level? Is it a feasible reality that if you're likely one of the top couple of best players in the country, that you could probably slot into a D1, or is even that maybe uh, getting towards the maybe it needs to be a special player to be able to be prepared and ready at the
Yeah.
current point of where softball is in Australia?
It just depends because there's so many D1 schools as well. So like again, I'm fortunate. I'm at one of the biggest schools, like sporting schools and softball based schools. So it really ultimately depends on the player and how much work they put in beforehand, I think, Dino. But there's other opportunities. So whether you go to a D2 program that has really good facilities and coaching and then potentially you transfer, or same with the junior college, it just varies year on year in the recruiting class that's sort of coming out of America and their high schools as well, and then the skill sets that you have, moving into that field. So honestly, it varies, but the best opportunity to give yourself, I guess, the best opportunity as a player is to do a lot of work at home so that you can succeed no matter which level you come into over here, because the transfer portal is so big these days. You can sort of move around quite quickly. And potentially elevate. If you started a D2, elevate to a D1, or if you started a JUCO, elevate to a D1 after that. So it's all about doing the work beforehand. I think that sets you up for success once you get over here.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt. And I think as well, you can be a little bit behind when you get started, but if your body is capable of competing,
Yeah.
you can bridge some of those gaps relatively quickly.
Yeah, and they're really big, and you'd know this obviously having been over here, but they're really big on, making sure that they teach the freshmen as well. So obviously the first year students, they don't know what the juniors and seniors know, and the amount of work that's required and the time management and the people skills and the work ethic and all those sorts of things. So, it's making sure you set yourself up for success, but knowing that if you get yourself into a good program like the Gators and you have a really good coaching staff that actually care about the people and the athletes, they're there to teach them and try and help them to help the athletes set themselves up for success later on in their sort of junior and senior years as well.
Yeah, it is a really interesting part of the college system is that mentality around building great individuals and setting them up for success, not only in that year or that season, but across the 4 years and beyond. And that really, I guess, powerful belief around the alumni and coming back and being part of that organization and being proud of it. So I think that's a really important point to make as well, is that it's not a necessary, like, yes, it is cutthroat. Don't get me wrong, that like there is going to be an element of making sure that you need to live up to your end of the bargain. At the
Yeah.
same time, if you do that, you will reap some pretty significant rewards.
Yeah, and I think it's about making sure, like, again, one of the first things that Coach Walton, who's the head coach here at Florida, said to me was that one of his biggest things is building relationships with the athletes, and I've seen it over the last week and a half how much their coaching staff build the relationships with their athletes, because they genuinely want them to be the best athlete that they can be, but then post school set themselves up for success as much as they possibly can. So that, as I was saying, pre the Florida Gators football game, they had the 2015 reunion, and a lot of the players flew back, and they couldn't have been prouder to be a Gator. And just seeing, Coach Walton and his wife and the way they interacted with those players, because they've obviously been around for that entire period, you could see genuine care, and they wanted the best for their former athletes, their current athletes, and their future athletes. So again, I think it's about choosing a really good program with staff that actually care about you and want to set you up for the best success possible, both in your college career, but also post college as well.
Absolutely. I think that's probably the number one takeaway, right? Is making sure you go to a program where you feel like you're going to get looked after, and that's super important.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the stands are full. even at a practice game, is the NIL money and so NIL being name, image, and likeness funds distribution to college athletes, is that applicable in softball? And what does that and if you know what sort of money does that look like?
Yeah, look, I don't know what athletes are on, or I don't want to obviously delve into their to whatever their personal finances are, and I obviously haven't spoken to them about that, but I do know there's some obviously famously publicized ones from softball perspective. So there's a Texas Tech pitcher that signed for 1 million, which is unheard of in um, college sport, and in particular women's college sport. So like, there's definitely, I think, some challenges with the NIL. But I also think for women's sport, it's a pretty cool thing because, softballers, once they're done in their senior year, a lot of them, that's it. They retire at the age of 22, particularly Americans, from playing the game. So they've got a really small window to actually make money. And yeah, there's mixed reviews over here as to what it's doing to college sports, and whether it's a good thing or not. All I know is that female athletes are getting some money. So that's obviously a positive for a sport that most girls won't be able to continue to play after college and make any sort of finances out of it. But I couldn't, yeah, I don't have the details on individuals, and I don't specifically know how it works, Dino, to be honest with you. Haven't delved into that part yet, so, and I think it's new to a lot of
I
people
just
over here.
Yeah, I find it fascinating, but I also
Yeah,
think it creates a pretty irresistible opportunity to go and potentially be able to create a level of income.
yeah,
Most of the time, people are even in like male sports, like take baseball or basketball, for example.
yeah.
Sometimes there's a pathway, whether it's professional or college. But maybe now there's no compromise.
Mm,
You get the ability to be able to go and go down that academic pathway where you will have a degree at the end of your time. You can make some money, and you are around a world class program,
yeah,
potentially in an organization that is more caring from the perspective they're looking at the whole athlete rather than just who can win them the next championship.
yeah,
So it's a really interesting time in college sports for me, and just professional sports in general, because it makes it really challenging for competition, for other competitions around the world to be able to compete
yeah.
in this space.
Well, there was obviously there's a lot of ESPN, so I watched that a fair bit over here. And there was an interview with a Major League Baseball guy, and I can't remember his name. He was saying if NIL was around when he was deciding whether to go to college or sign a major league contract, that he would have gone the college pathway. So, who knows what it means? And I think, yeah, there's definitely some sports that it impacts more than others. Positively and maybe negatively, but it's definitely a changing landscape now for the college sports, and with the transfer portal being so big, I think it changes everything up a little bit. But as I said, this program here is phenomenal. So I know I can only imagine that the athletes love it here.
So obviously you get to spend time and it's great to be part of that program. What are some of the things you think are applicable to Diamond,
Mm.
and some things that we could potentially implement or at least bring back that you think would be really useful for our athletes?
Yeah, I think, look, I think it's definitely reinforced to me, Dino, how important strength and conditioning is from getting yourself ready, getting ready for load management, being able to train for significant hours, being able to back it up day to day. They had a 9 day stretch here where they didn't have a day, like their next day off was on the ninth day, or,
Hmm.
or whatever it was.
Yep.
Lifting is a priority, so they'll lift before practice, and it's just reinforced the ability to get your body ready to compete internationally. For most sports is going to require a large amount of strength, speed, and really building the capacity to train for several hours in, like, Florida's hot, so like, and humid, so that there's those elements as well. So it's probably reinforced the fact that you have to get your body in the right shape, which means sleeping, eating right, lifting, doing all the little things. The other big thing that they really emphasize here is attention to detail. So it's the little things that matter, whether it be on their practice plan or whether it be, you know, fielding a rep or going to class or being places on time. There's not been one athlete that hasn't been on time to a training session. So like they're out there, they're stretching, the coaches aren't on the field and they've already started, right? So it's those little bit of attention to detail that I think we could definitely step up as athletes, like an athlete culture, not just at Diamond, but anywhere, is the ability to do things when people aren't watching and that attention to detail. So yeah, probably re-emphasize that specifically to me.
Yeah, and it's almost a little bit counterintuitive to the Aussie mentality, which I find interesting as well,
Yeah.
because we're Aussies are so laid back and like, it's okay, mate, don't worry, that kind of mentality, which is part of what makes Australia great.
Yeah.
It's also counterintuitive to high performance. So it's great to give people a little bit of a lead pass and to have some more flexibility and let people make their own decisions and all of that sort of stuff. That is really important. It's also important that we hold ourselves to a high accountable standard and that we take that really seriously. And I think that's probably the thing that sometimes gets missed is that we are a little bit too easygoing.
Hmm.
And I mean this as a society,
Yeah.
but often in our high performance environments too, that we're all a bit like, oh yeah, it's okay, like don't sweat it, not a big deal. And I think that we really do need to make sure that the most important thing is that we hold ourselves to a standard and we're accountable to it, and we don't need to be held to it. We hold ourselves accountable to it. So I think it's a really valid point that you've raised there.
Well, I don't think the best are the best by chance, right? Like it doesn't, they didn't just fall into being the best. Like again, this program is since Coach Walton's taken it over has been really successful. You know, he's obviously won national championships. He's done all of those things, and yeah, the athletes that come into this program are successful because they do those little things really well, and the little things do matter, and they do matter to them personally and as a collective group, and whether that be, you know, the dietitian that's getting the food ready after practice to then lead into the game, or the S&C coach or the assistant coaches, like everybody has the same attention to detail. And so yeah, I think it's definitely something that we can elevate. And then what they're really good at as well, Dean, is like they are people off the diamond too, and they're really good at once they cross that white line or the diamond lines, they switch on and they really, you know, focus and get into it. And then once they're off, they're happy to joke and have a laugh, and they're really good people as well. So I think that's something that we can get better as well, is just switching, you know, on and off when the time's right and when it's necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all part of developing those skills from being in a highly competitive environment to be able to just get comfortable with that high level of competition and then being able to kind of go back to normal life again. And the
Yeah.
more you do it, the less you need to carry that around with you.
Yeah.
You can flick it on and off, which is a skill. And I know I really struggled with that. Coming from a place where I play twice a week to playing, every day of the week,
Yeah.
you can't carry the baggage with you everywhere. It becomes too heavy
Yeah.
after a while.
Oh,
So I think it's
100%.
it's a super important skill.
Yeah.
Going back to the stuff you said about strength conditioning, and because I know that we have a battle once summer season kicks off.
Hmm.
A lot of our baseball, softball athletes, particularly that are in like high performance programs, start reducing or stopping their strength conditioning in season,
Yeah.
due to we're busy, there's too many games, all that sort of stuff. And that's
Hmm.
it's actually a really sore spot for me. And not because I want them to stay in the gym, it's because it's the thing I did. And I think it's the single biggest thing that held me back when I was in the US playing. And I think it's the single biggest factor that holds our Aussie athletes back is that we don't understand that strength conditioning is capacity building. Corbs will be really proud of me saying that, but it's capacity building. And the reality is that if you don't do the strength conditioning consistently, and that's 2 or 3 times a week, every week, in season, out of season, on holidays,
Yeah.
no matter what, even when you're injured, unless you've got an injury where you're not allowed to step foot in the gym, but generally you can work around the injury. If you're not doing strength and conditioning 2 or 3 times a week, you're not building capacity, you're not preparing yourself to be ready for the next level. And yes, there's an element of skill development, playing more games that's helpful. At the same time, you also need to make sure you've got the capacity to cope with what's coming. And often, I think we, as athletes, and I was massively guilty of this, that my preference was playing, not being in the gym. And so therefore, if I had the option to choose and I could make the excuse, like I've got training, I was like, well, I'm going to training, so that's got to be better. And it's actually not true. And it's one of the things that I knew that I was preferring to go to training or making a reason why I couldn't go to the weight room. And I think that's the single biggest difference between making it and not being maximizing your performance and not, particularly in that ages of probably 15 to 20. If you haven't done the work, then you're playing catch up, and it comes too slowly.
Yeah.
And I look at all of the players around that have been successful in, particularly in diamond sports, where we can probably speak with a level of
Mm-hmm.
confidence and involvement in the programs, that the ones that succeeded the most were the ones that were the best in the weight room and the most consistent in the weight room. And I even look back to, guys of my era like Luke Hughes, and even currently Alex Hall, etc. Those kind of guys that have been around in baseball were the most successful because they did all the off-field work the best.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably also true with your career. I know I got a front seat to seeing how hard you worked and
Mm-hmm.
all the things you were willing to do to make sure that you were in a position to be as prepared as possible to play against the world's best players. But you never shortcut.
Yeah.
You never skipped a day. You never shied away from those little things that you could have excused.
Mm-hmm.
I work a full-time job. I'm not a full-time pro athlete. I don't have time for the gym, or I don't have time to do my running session, or I don't have time to do those little bits and pieces. I'm doing them, and I always make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that mentality is the difference between being the best you can be and just settling for whatever work you're willing to do.
Yeah. And I think, just looking at these athletes that are here in front of me now, Dino, like they don't not lift. Like they're they're training all the time. They're in class. They'll lift. They'll have 6 a.m. weights, or depending on the day, whatever time it is, and they'll go to class and then they'll come to practice. Like there's not really that scope of not lifting. There's a high value placed on it from the staff and the support staff and the athletes themselves. Like not one of them, I haven't heard any of them say, "Oh, I've got gym." Like, "Oh, no, I've got to go to gym." They just go. Like it's part of being a professional athlete, and it's part of, you know, they're prepared to do whatever it takes to win a national championship. And a massive contributing factor to that is the strength and conditioning that's going to make them stronger, that's going to build the capacity for their 60, 70 game season in 3 months. Like whatever it might be, whether it's going to help their hitting or it's going to get them more mobile to do something. Like they're 100% invested in doing it, and the staff that are here are fully invested in it, and so is the S&C coach. He's at every game, he's at every practice warming them up. So there's just a massive component to it, and I think, yeah, they're willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to become a national champion, and that's just the mindset that they have, and it's what goes from good to great, right? Like that's why not everyone gets the opportunity to represent a program like the Florida Gators, or to take the Florida Gators to a national champ, because they're not that level. And yeah, I've seen it before my eyes the last week and a half, whether it's strength and conditioning or any other element to them being a professional athlete. Like there's no like, oh, it's preseason or it's Christmas or it's, we're in the middle of our games. It's you lift, you get better. It's going to help you on so many levels, not just performance, but just load management and recovery and everything that comes with it, Dino. So yeah, it's a full time. Like they don't stop over summer when they have breaks. They lift and they do whatever they have to become national champions here. And um whether it's a softball program or any other sport, I think the Florida Gators is like they expect excellence and they're out to win national championships in their sport programs. So I don't think there's any wavering from the one percenters in getting the job done on and off the field.
No, absolutely. And so I'll get off my high horse now, and we'll wrap this up. But
Yeah.
you're spending some time with the Florida Gators. You're going to cruise on over to the IMG Academy, and you've got a few other little, hopefully maybe a trip to Disney or Universal or something, just to like
Yeah.
blow off some steam, have a bit of fun. But what else have you got planned?
Uh, Honestly, they go to work every day, so I'm at the softball field, Dino, just about every day here. And to be honest, I couldn't
Where else would you rather be?
genuinely like they are just, yeah, it's amazing being around a group of professionals like that. So from my perspective, I actually love it. Like I'm so glad I get to be out there with the staff and the players every single day, just about. I think I've got like maybe 3 off days, give or take, that I'm not actually at the softball field. So they go to work over here, so it's actually really good fun.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, I will leave you to go and enjoy probably some dinner and whatever else you've got planned for tonight.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you taking some time out. It's obviously really cool to, that a great opportunity for you, but obviously cool for us to kind of get to see it as well, and hopefully learn some stuff to continuously improve what we do. Um, have an absolute blast. Enjoy your time, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dino.
All right, catch ya.